Ho, ho, ho! Is this thing on? Mic check. One sleigh, two sleigh. That's right. I've got a podcast now. Stories, jokes, and some serious North Pole nonsense. Santa Has a Podcast is out now at santahasapodcast.com. Ho, ho, ho!
Support American jobs while standing up for your values. OldGloryDepot.com brings you conservative pride on premium, made-in-USA gear. Don't settle. Wear your patriotism proudly. Visit OldGloryDepot.com today.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Welcome to Breaking Battlegrounds. I'm your host, Chuck Warren, and my co-host Sam Stone, Kiley Kipper in studio. And today, I'm excited to have an old friend, Patrick Byrne. He's an e-commerce pioneer, an entrepreneur, and he does so many amazing things in the world that we wanted to spend our full hour talking with Patrick about what he's up to, about the docuseries he has coming out, The Enemy Within, or it's out now.
It's out now, and if you watch it, you realize we're about to talk to either the most interesting man in the world, Patrick, or depending on the other point of view, someone who people consider absolutely nuts. So I'm looking forward to get into this. So much of it tied to things we've learned in the last few years.
Right, exactly right. Jeremy, play the clip for me. I heard this morning again and thought of Patrick when I heard it.
He is the life of parties he has never attended. If he were to punch you in the face, he would have to fight off the strong urge to thank him. Sharks have a week dedicated to him. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. Stay thirsty, my friends.
Patrick, welcome to the show.
Chuck, great to be on. It's been too many years. That's funny. I'm chuckling at that.
Well, I was driving this morning and I thought, okay, this sums up Patrick, and I YouTubed it. And it was fantastic.
And literally, we did not discuss that intro before the program when I pulled that up. That we came to that separately on the way in here.
So,
Sharks have a week devoted to him. That's actually a really funny line.
So, folks, I worked with Patrick Byrne for decades at Overstock.com, something he pioneered and really was a pioneer in the e-commerce field. And Patrick has always had a devotion for America, for our Constitution. I think you said at your table as a kid, you talked about Reagan, the Constitution, and the Catholic Church. Was that? Do I remember that story right?
Capital markets, the Constitution, not Reagan. It was before Reagan, but it was capital markets, the Constitution, and Catholic Church. That was where they.
So Pat. Yeah, so
was that in the years when Kennedy was actually getting his butt kicked before he got killed?
No, I'm a little bit.
He's not that old.
Oh, late 60s, early 70s. I know that when you're as young as you, all this old guys all look.
Hey, look, I got to take every opportunity. The average age in my office is like 23. It's hideous. It's terrifying.
So one thing about Patrick, we did a lot of political projects together. And I remember one day we were pushing school choice in Utah, and Patrick told me to tell the legislators the following: I don't have any kids, so I'm going to leave all my money to making sure kids have school choice. This was his cause. He believed deeply in it. He took it upon himself to do it. So, Patrick, this past week or two, we've had a bunch of news articles called the Mississippi Miracle, where Mississippi was ranked 49th in reading literacy, and now it's jumped to number 9?
Number 9.
Number 9.
Yeah.
And the reports have come out, even from progressives, is a lot of the blame for the dysfunction and the gap in literacy can be blamed on teachers' unions. And they pointed out Chicago, which is absolutely crazy, and California. And all your years in school choice battles, do you believe teachers' unions care about the kids, or are they only there for teachers' unions?
No, teachers' unions, their job is to be there for teachers' unions. In fact, if you go back 40 odd years, the president of the American Federation of Teachers actually said this quote. I think you've heard it. We've talked about it years ago. Where he said something like, "I'll start worrying about the kids when they start paying my paycheck," or something weird that just shows he was saying the job of the union is to look out for the teachers. Let other people worry about the students. That's not our issue. Now, so they have and they act just like any union. They act like any union. They act like any monopoly. The whole point of having a monopoly is to deliver an inferior product at an inflated price and squeeze out the difference. And that's what the unions do.
The interesting thing about that is if that was all they did was worry about teacher pay and benefits, I wouldn't think they're the threat that they are. But it's their political activism in every other area, the fact that they're using teacher dues as a slush fund for every progressive cause and turning schools into indoctrination centers. Now I got a problem, a big one.
I'm with you. You know, Milton Friedman said that Lincoln said that the philosophy of the schoolroom today is the philosophy of society tomorrow. And then if you have a socialist school system, it's going to teach socialist values. If you have a free market system, it will teach freedom as a value. Well, what we have, I mean, when Jimmy Carter founded the Department of Education, the U.S. educational system was number one in the world. Now our results are sort of 35th to 40th in the industrialized. We're at the bottom of the industrialized world. That's what happens when the federal government shows up and says, "Hey, we're going to really help you manage this." So it's been a disaster, and the whole way down, the unions have been fighting to make education more about ideological brainwashing and less about something they can be measured on, because they hate to be measured because they're giving a lousy product and don't want to be measured.
Yeah, it's you know, like there's some really great lies in the world. One is we're here from the government and we're here to help you.
Right.
You know, when someone in a business deal is always bringing up their faith, you can pretty much tell you're going to get screwed on that. And number three.
Alhamdulillah. Yes.
And then number three is when a teachers union says they're for the kids. It's a lie. So anyway, yeah, the school choice movement has really taken a life of its own now. And Patrick, we introduced you earlier as an e-commerce pioneer. You really are a school voucher pioneer in many ways. This would not have happened without all of your early investments. And, you lead with your fist sometimes, and it had to be done. And that's okay, because as a result of that, there's a lot of kids, especially I read something a couple months ago that if you took out all the inner cities, America's education is like 8th in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you have helped these kids in the inner city, for the families willing to sacrifice and take them to school and pick them up, an opportunity to make a difference in this world, to have a life, to pursue their dreams.
Low-income kids in Arizona who go to charter schools have results very closely on par with the white upper-income kids who go to public schools.
Absolutely. So, Patrick, this movement that's happening all across the country, you were one of the early ones that said, "I'm doubling down on this, I'm not tripling down," and you deserve credit for that. So let's talk now. You have a docuseries out. Oops, I just played in there. The Enemy Within.
Before we move on, let me point something else out about Mississippi.
Okay.
The Mississippi not only did its results move from 49th in the country to the top 10. Are we ready to talk about Mississippi specifically?
Yeah. Yes.
But the gap between white and black achievement shrunk so much. It is like the most it has shrunken.
Yes.
It's the lowest gap of any state in the country now. The lowest gap.
And, that comes from a reversal. It is my belief that deep down, the true racists in our society are the left.
Yes.
The liberal left, the academic left. And behind closed doors, the kinds of things get said are the kinds of things that people imagine get said in Republican circles. I can't ever imagine being in a Republican circle and hearing people say, but boy, behind closed doors within academia, you'll hear people basically express openly an attitude of, well, what can you expect? They're black. And that's horrible. And they're the racists. And it is, in fact, what I think of as the Frederick Douglass, the Thomas Sowell thrust in our society is if you actually teach and compete and don't lower the bars for one side, we actually discover black people do just fine. They do great. Nothing makes me happier than when I hear about some inner city chess club
Right.
that like cleans up on its, but it's the left who doesn't believe that's possible. And because they don't really see it fundamentally as possible, they've embraced this whole other world of mamby-pamby feel-good stuff, which is not education, and does nothing, but it's because they really don't believe it's possible to educate black people. I think that, and what Mississippi shows is, yes, it is possible, and it's just what did Mississippi do to have these remarkable results, fellas?
They held people. They did phonics. They held people accountable. They did not advance people if they couldn't pass the grade. They did all the basic stuff we did back in the 30s and 40s.
Right. They went back to school circa 1990.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say they're brilliant. They just put their foot down and would not be bullied by the teachers' unions. They said, we're doing this. Now all these other southern states are doing it. You'll probably see it go over to other red states. And the
Tennessee,
Democrats will keep
Mississippi,
fighting tooth and nail. Florida's been
Tennessee,
doing it.
Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. They are all shooting upwards.
Well, there was a study I read, and a progressive professor says, if they don't know how to learn by the age of 18, they're not going to learn how to learn.
Right.
And so what Governor Reeves in Mississippi has done is he is giving a whole generation of black children an opportunity to be their best selves. And
can you imagine the cost to society that we've experienced by the under education of all the talent that was there but didn't get educated?
Oh my gosh.
Milton used to say the real cost of the socialist school system now is the undereducation of the geniuses in our society. And the geniuses are everywhere.
Yes.
They're scattered just in the country, in the city, in the inner city, they're everywhere. But if 90% of them are getting garbage education, then that's a real cost to society. Tell me, Chuck, I remember you did some wonderful work 15, 20 years ago about making sure that union dues couldn't
it's going to be used for politics. Yeah, and that's happening across the country too. That's a little bit slower of a burden, but it is happening and it makes a difference quite a bit. We have 1 minute here, Patrick. Before we go and take this break and come back and talk about your docuseries, where can people follow you and the work you're doing?
Really, Twitter. Patrick Byrne at Patrick Byrne on Twitter, X, is where I spend, or Locals. Locals is where I do more intimate. Locals is something like OnlyFans, or you don't take off your clothes.
At least not yet. You're young.
It depends on how desperate we get. It's the same.
We're going to get to that portion of the program a little later here.
If you like me, I have an account there. I occasionally do videos and Ask Me Anything, and you pay like $5 a month, and you get access to the intimate stuff. I mean, not that intimate, but I mean
we're going to get into Maria Butina here in just a moment. Coming up, folks, you're going to want to stay tuned for this, and you're going to want to buy this docuseries and watch it, find it. I watched it on Rumble. I was blown away, Chuck. I mean, there is so much in there, Patrick, in what you've gone through and what you've done that ties to things we're learning that Democrats said were not real, but we keep finding out they were. It is a pretty extraordinary story.
Well, I just remember Patrick telling me the stories, and we go in the soundproof room. He goes, you got to listen to this. I'm like, I know you're not going to believe me. I said, you've never lied to me before, so I'm going to believe you now.
Well, as they say in Hollywood, it reads better than it plays.
It certainly reads and watches better than it's played for you, because you've taken a beating over this stuff. Folks, we got good stuff coming for you. Stay tuned.
My name is Patrick Byrne, domestic extremist threat number 1. Or not. Perhaps I'm just somebody who's willing to say the emperor has no clothes. You can decide for yourself.
Patrick Byrne, they're following everything that you've been working on.
Yes, sir. Understood.
You may know of me as the CEO of this $2 billion e-commerce company, but really, I have this other life.
You have an unusual relationship with the United States government?
Sir, why are you bringing this up?
The FBI needed me to set up a bribe.
We can't have agents running around creating crimes.
It would violate too many rules for us to do it, but if you're willing to go do it, we'll look the other way.
Hello, my name is Maria Butina.
Then I would make it happen. Instead of being happy,
And they say,
Just let it play, all right?
what?
Let it play.
Now, I know this may look like the Deep Throat scene from All the President's Men, but where do you think that stuff comes from? These things happen.
What you think you know.
I was encouraged to have a relationship,
What you think you are.
and as it heated up,
I'm going to meet the Trumps.
I was starting to realize the feds were using Maria to smudge up the Republican Party, and they were using me to use Maria. And this truth is going to be so explosive.
Erase every moment from your memory.
If you do this long enough, you begin to feel like an enemy of your own country. And arrest this Russian grad student so they could say, no, there is an actual Russian at the center of our Russian collusion drama. A civilization all begins with the rule of law. And once that gets corrupted, it's like my worst fears have just been realized. I don't know, maybe I'm just being sensitive.
All right, imagine this. You're running for president. Yes, president. What's the first thing you need? Well, besides the $1 million fundraising, you need to secure your web domain. You need your name, .vote. Easy to remember, straight to the point, and a direct link to your campaign. No, but seriously, whether you're getting out to vote or convincing people that yes, you can fix the potholes on Main Street, a .vote domain helps you stand out. It's not just a website, it's a call to action. Head over to GoDaddy.com or name.com, type in your name, .vote, and boom, you're ready to make a lasting impact. Get started today with your .vote web address.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. We're continuing on now with Patrick Byrne, founder and CEO of Overstock, former CEO of Overstock.com. And he has a new docuseries out, The Enemy Within docuseries. You can go to theenemywithin.docuseries.com to check that out. I watched it, all of it, last night on Rumble, 3 episodes. I mean, I was glued to the laptop there, Patrick. This is an incredible story you have told.
You know, well, it just occurred to me, and Chuck, we did not plan this. Chuck and I actually haven't spoken in, I think, in a long time.
Yeah, a year, yeah.
Just occurred to me, because, of course, or the veracity of the story is what some people would question, although the truth is, if anything, it's toned down. It's about 90% true. I had to smudge out some of the really bad stuff. But Orrin Hatch, retired Senator Orrin Hatch plays a role. And before this book came out, there was a magazine that was about half the story. But I asked Chuck to take that to Orrin Hatch. Can you tell this story, Chuck? Bits before it died?
Oh, no, you go ahead, tell. I remember taking it to him, and
he asked you to, so he read it. And then he asked you to come over like next Thursday to talk to you.
Oh, that's right.
And then you got a phone call the night before.
That he passed away.
No, you got a phone call that he was sick and to delay you going over. And then he was sick for a couple of days.
And then passed away.
Delayed, and then that was the sickness. He died.
That's right. That's right.
And that alludes to an episode in the midst of the series where Orrin Hatch, Arlen Specter, and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, correct?
Yes, and Senate Intel.
Had brought you in and asked you to help them pursue corruption, and what they were seeing was essentially the formation of what we now call the deep state, right?
Exactly. In fact, the character in that movie, there's a scene where I walk in sort of a public park. The character who plays me walks in a public park with a man in a suit. That was actually Orrin Hatch, and that conversation was word for word. The conversation was word for word. What that actor says is exactly which is in the book and in the magazine, that the story version of this. That's what Chuck gave to Orrin Hatch. That was word for word what he said to me. That conversation with the guy walking around the lake in a park, that was Orrin, Senator Hatch.
So one of the things that, as I was watching this that struck me, and Chuck and I have talked about this before on air here, is that Obama, different than any other president, seeded the federal apparatus and state governments with his operatives in permanent bureaucratic positions, not in appointed positions. And to me, that's always seemed like the foundation of the deep state. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's bigger than that?
That's a good place to start, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. What Obama did get his people across the federal bureaucracy, but especially the Department of Justice, something was broke. There was a taboo. Have you ever heard, Chuck, you probably have heard of this, ram spec? Have you ever heard of ram specking someone in? Have you ever heard that expression?
No, I have not.
In Washington, D.C., you have the bureaucracies, and just like any country, when the new leader comes in, he puts his, I don't want to say apparatchiks, but he puts his
appointees.
Appointees at the top of the bureaucracy. They're not really supposed to run it. They're make sure it stays on track with his orders. But there are permanent people inside who run it. Well, it's always been, and it's not just the top guy. There's 3,000 or 4,000 political appointees across all the agencies. The theory always was that you served your time and then you moved on. And there was always a taboo against digging into the bureaucracy. And to do so, though, it was allowed for after World War II, and I think it was 2 senators with a name like Ram and Speck or something. So it was called a Ram Speck in somebody. Anyway, maybe it was one senator named Ram Speck. So that's the verb. But in the 90s, that taboo broke. And what started happening is you get some political appointee whose dad runs an auto dealer and gives some money to Bill Clinton, $25,000, and the kid studies, gender studies at Brown or whatever. And he gets out and he gets made a political appointee, an assistant secretary or something. I mean, a lot of those people are pretty anyway. But the problem is they're there, and then as they're over it, they get the bureaucracy underneath them to open up a job. Let's say we're gonna have a special, a $250,000 a year job, and the guy takes it himself in his own bureaucracy. So he's gotten to the top through political appointments, and then he's burrowing down into the bureaucracy. Now, it's starting in the 90s, that taboo went away, and Democrats and Republicans have both violated the taboo. It's probably 2/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republican, but there's a layer of about 2,000 people in the top of our government who got there that way, not by being the best FBI or DHS agents and moving up, but they got appointed as a political appointee, and God bless them, but then they used that opportunity to create job for themselves in the bureaucracy and dug in, became a federal employee. So those 2,000 people are a real problem.
Where they become very difficult to fire or get rid of.
Patrick, you've been around the world a million times. I think you told me once you've been to Lebanon 50 times. It may be more than that since then. How much do you see the influence of American NGOs pushing progressive policies?
It's enormous. I've seen it. Ukraine, Israel, Lebanon. Super inefficient. So super inefficient, super corrupt. I was with people in Ukraine, as I mentioned in my book, that they said you guys have sent $5 billion to us last year. $4 billion got stolen, and it's a combination of it was actually a mafiosi telling me this. A mafiosi was telling me our rival mafia is in bed with your embassy. Your embassy is still filled with a bunch of Obama Biden holdovers, Patrick. This was in 2018. And it's still filled with them. Last year you sent $5 billion. They stole $4 billion. Our rival mafia plus your embassy Obama Biden crowd. It's very normal. I've seen them all over the world where you go to Afghanistan and in Kabul, there's one little neighborhood that has all the mansions. When I was in Kabul in 2005, it's all these NGO guys with brand new Land Rovers playing beer pong and staying in their mansions all day. It was crazy. They lived like the days of the Raj.
It's just insane. We have about a minute left in this segment. We're going to continue on with Patrick Byrne. After this, we're keeping him through the whole program because we got a lot to talk about. But when you're working around the world, how did you? I want you to, when we come back, tell people how you first got involved in working with the United States government, working with the intelligence and diplomatic community, because that's a story I think happens more frequently than people realize, that U.S. outreach and diplomacy efforts are often conducted through people like yourself, initially at least, and not through official channels.
Yeah, so when we come back, you want me to tell you that?
Yeah, we'll come back.
We're going to come back with more on that here in just a minute. We have about 30 seconds left in this segment, so I didn't want to get you down a long rabbit hole, but I kind of
I'll give you a quick answer to that. As somebody said to me once about 20 years ago, somebody from the National Security Council who was asking me to go somewhere. I said, "Why do you ask me to do this stuff? Don't you folks have people?" He said, "Well, Patrick, in this world, before certain kinds of people talk, other kinds of people need to talk. You're that other kind of person."
and we love those other kind of people here on Breaking Battlegrounds. Folks, we're coming back with more in just a moment. Make sure you're downloading the podcast. Go to breakingbattlegrounds.vote for all the extra content. Breaking Battlegrounds, back in just a moment.
Sam and I are always talking about being prepared, whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chains disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com.
Old Glory Depot isn't just a website. It's a movement. Featuring unapologetically conservative shirts and gear, we're proud to deliver 100% American-made products. From premium materials to bold designs, every purchase supports American jobs and celebrates our country. Show your pride, support your values, and shop oldglorydepot.com because patriotism never goes out of style.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Continuing on now with Patrick Byrne. He is the former CEO and founder of Overstock.com, a leading voice for freedom over tyranny. Patrick, when we went to break, we were talking a little bit about how you first started getting involved with the United States government, with the intelligence community and the State Department. Tell us a little bit more about that process, what some of those things were that they were asking you to do. And then I want to get into the period that really your series focuses on, which is the lead up and post and aftermath of the 2016 election and into 2020.
I said, well, first thing to know is this was never supposed to come out while I was alive. About a decade ago, Are you going to be able to stay alive now that you put it out? I was asking myself that last night, but okay.
Well, it's one of the reasons for putting it out was increasing my odds of staying alive. I'd say that first I should say I'm not a spook. I'm not a spy. I never worked for the CIA. But I had opportunity. So I had cancer in my 20s. And because I had cancer, I spent a lot of my life, my 20s, 3 years in the hospital, 3 years convalescing. And I end up being one of those forever students out at Stanford, did a PhD in philosophy, a lot of economics and such. Somewhere along the way, actually the first interaction happened a few years earlier. I was a student in China, and somebody came and asked me to get a letter to the United States government. It was somebody who had befriended me, another foreigner, a foreigner from Laos. And after a while, he asked me to get a letter to the government, and I did. And then that sort of triggered this thing where they later asked me 5 years later to go to Vietnam, where we did not have diplomatic relations, and see if I could. But the U.S. government wanted to do something humanitarian for Vietnam as a way of opening up the door to reestablishing relations. And the general who was in charge of that, and this is all laid out in detail in the story, set it up. I went. We didn't have diplomatic relations, but the government knew I'd been sent. The Vietnamese government knew I'd been sent by the U.S., and they cooperated and gave me ideas. I came back and I wrote basically a term paper, a development economics term paper, gave it to the general, and they did a bunch of these projects. And after that, they understood. And I hate that I sound like I'm pounding on my chest. I'm not at all. But it was really the great privilege of my life that will never happen again, I'm sure. But the great privilege of my life that from time to time, on rare occasions, Uncle Sam called me with something that had to often or generally had to do with peace. And they understood that was kind of my thing. And if they had an opportunity where somebody so that's what drove it, and it started there. It happened occasionally, every year or two through the 90s. After 9/11, I got ramped up. So the truth is, 2014, 2016 wasn't an increase, and I've been doing it for forever. After 9/11, I started getting sent a lot to different parts of the world. Sometimes it felt like Overstock was my cover job, frankly. I worked. Remember, Chuck, how I was always traveling abroad all those years?
Yes.
I would tell people I was going to Paris or something, but I actually be in other places, and then so that's what I was really up to. And it was never supposed to come out. I figured 50 years after I was gone, it was going to come out, and unfortunately, things happened that made it imperative for me to just come out now.
Now, this isn't actually all that uncommon from what I understand, that it appears to be there are similarities in those approaches to the U.S. government between people like you and other very successful business people in the country like Bill Gates, right? I mean, this is one of the ways that government utilizes our economic sector to create opportunity.
Well,
and I'm not trying to compare you to Bill, because I think you two have very different intent.
And some things like that, it goes the other way. There are some things that get spun off. For example, databases. This is public information. Databases were developed inside the CIA, and then they spun off their technology with this guy named Larry, and he created Oracle, and that's it. But I think he may have been like a CIA scientist or something, and he was spun off of that technology and said, you can take it. There's more out there in the world that has actually been developed internally and given to somebody to make a company out of. So that happens. That wasn't the case with me. It's more like this was all going on when I was a grad student, and in my early days, had nothing to do with Overstock. It's just when Overstock came along, it continued, and then 9/11, it continued happening. And I guess I should say, they emphasized to me many times, Patrick, you have a non-standard relationship with the United States government. Not an asset, not a spook.
I need to use that more with people. I have a non-standard relationship with you.
And often it was really very academic. I got invited to come to government facilities and talk about my ideas, about things I'd been saying publicly, and it was always super flattering. And I discovered really how wonderful, there was a lot of wonderful people in government. We tend outside to make fun of them, but there were a lot of people. It was interesting, and I'm sorry that it can never happen again, given what I've done.
Well, and the other shame is that a lot of those very wonderful people have not had a chance to do the things that they are trying to accomplish in government.
They have not.
So we're going to be coming back with more from Patrick Byrne in just a moment. Stay tuned.
In today's digital world, standing out is more important than ever. Whether you're running for office, leading a cause, or hosting a vote for the cutest pet in town, you need a web domain that's simple, memorable, and action-oriented. You need a .vote web domain. It's clear, impactful, and establishes a lasting presence for your campaign. Don't wait. Head to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name.vote, and get started today. Because after all, every pet deserves a web address that's as special as they are.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone, continuing on the line now with Patrick Byrne, who got to live out one of my fantasies in politics, the honeypot. Look, I'm going to be honest. I'm a single guy here.
We all have our dreams in life.
If any Russian or Chinese would like to throw a honeypot my way, I don't know what secrets we have at the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, but I will hand them over.
I actually just had a book delivered 2 weeks ago. I'm going to read it about all this honeypots the CIA use. So anyway, well, I'll get to that later. So, Patrick, Maria Butina, you had a relationship with her, and she was basically used as a pawn. And explain to our audience why that happened and how it's related to Trump in 2016.
Yeah, well, the punchline is that I was the honeypot in that one.
Every man's dream to be the honeypot, right? So that's
that's just next level, Patrick. I mean, seriously, come on.
Sam, you should start using on dates. I'm a honeypot.
If it'll work, I'm there.
Anyway,
well, like I say in my story, I'm a lot taller and handsomer when I stand on my wallet. So Maria was actually an idealistic young graduate student in philosophy, connected to very powerful people in the upper echelons of Russia, who was asked to come to the United States, what she was told she was doing. So let's distinguish between what she thought she was and what she really was. But I can know what she thought she was. She thought she'd been sent here to that look, Putin isn't going to be president forever, and we need to discuss what a post-Putin age could look like. And is there any way, that there is actually a liberal emerging elite in Russia? By liberal, they mean like what we would call libertarian, Democrat or Democratic.
Classical liberalism.
Classical liberal. Well, yeah, they believe in, like, she was a big Ron Paul fan. They believe in this, and they wanted to reach out to their equivalents in America so that when someday, if Putin wasn't president anymore, there might be some webbing that we could start discussing what a post-Putin age could look like, and it may be more like the relationship was in the 19th century with Russia, which was a very positive relationship between our two countries. So that was what she thought she was doing. It's clear to me that, so first of all, the U.S. knew about her since February 2015. Here's something that's only hinted in the book. She came over the two times, February 2015, where she was spotted, and it's appendix to my book. She was spotted in D.C. and she made some people uncomfortable. She was going to a weekly press conference, and the people running the conference decided not to let her in again because it made people uncomfortable. They got a phone call. That guy running that conference got a phone call from Peter Strzok of the FBI. This was February 2015, saying, "Don't keep Maria out. We'd rather you let her in. Don't worry, we got her on her. We want to watch her." That was, 18 months before. They say that they discovered her in July of 2016, and that's what started Crossfire Hurricane. They're lying through her teeth. In February 2015, they were making arrangements for Maria without Maria's knowledge, so wherever she went in D.C., the doors would be open and she could be inside. Secondly, by the time I met her July of 2015, they were all on her and so forth. They used Maria to smudge up the Republican Party, and they used me to use her. So, for example, they told me, Chris Christie, you might remember, Chuck,
yes.
You remember Chris Christie wanted me to come see him?
Yes.
So they told me, I was instructed to get Maria to come with me and bring her into contact with Chris Christie. And they said when she reports it to her handlers in Moscow, it'll make your stock go up with them. So I said, okay. I went to see Chris Christie. I spent an hour with him. I brought her in for the last 5 or 10 minutes. They used that to get a FISA warrant on Chris Christie. They said, "Oh my gosh, Chris Christie's interacting with this Russian graduate student. Oh, if anyone she talked to for more than a minute or two, that's probable cause." So they got a warrant on Chris Christie, so then they can listen to him and anyone he talks to and anyone they talk to. So they were just using Maria to smudge up the Republicans, and I figured out this by the end of 2015. That's what they were doing.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense with what we learned, and I think what a lot of us kind of saw and assumed with Crossfire Hurricane, which was the Russia collusion frame-up against Donald Trump, was that they had to be pulling in people like her and people like yourself or others. They had to create that case out of whole cloth. They couldn't make up the people, so they had to make the people that they could find more nefarious.
Right.
Right, and they definitely I call it, when you see a group like the Spice Girls, you say it's producer driven. It's not like 4 young girls all were friends, they found each other and they decided to make music together.
Right.
It's like some producer has the idea, they write the songs, they get everything set, then they go and find 4 girls to play the part. Well, John Brennan had in mind a Russian hoax, and that was all written, and then they went out and found someone they could use as a prop to dance around and create the Russian hoax with. So it was a producer-driven scandal.
Why haven't the Republicans been able to make this more widely known?
Well, half the Republicans are part of it. I'm a big believer that the deep state is not democratic. The Republicans are in on it. Jack Kemp in Georgia, all kinds of Republicans know about, and have basically been made the belief. And, you go back to 2021, and they dropped their mask. They let us see our future. And the future is, in their view, an elitist society concentrated in cities, and really the rest of people's quality of living destructing, and tyranny imposed on you, so you can't do anything about it. So it's basically the Hunger Games is what these lefties wanted to create, and we just got a very good image of it for 4 years. So that was their plan, and the Republicans, there's a whole bunch of Republicans who've bought into that. I view the moderate, I view your Mitt Romney, frankly. I think that the connections between the UN and, I think Utah, frankly, is not nearly as troubled as it should be about the whole UN and New World Order. I think it's very troubling that there's elements in Utah that seem to be okay with this.
What? So that's sort of a central point to this whole thing. Chuck, you and I have talked for years about the fact that it seemed for the last decade like there is a hidden hand or hands guiding things in ways that the average American would be very, very against.
Correct.
And Patrick, in your series, your book, it's sort of framed, or it came off to me as if a big hand in that is Obama. But how much bigger is it than him? Because my take has always been he is an actor at the front of that, not the director.
That's true. He's a smart guy. He's a smart fellow, but he's not the puppet master. He's another puppet himself. It could be that John Brennan is his puppet master. I think it may be that Obama was an asset of John Brennan's. Obama looks pretty producer-driven himself. Correct. His sudden rise and such, and
that seems to be. It's not just Obama, but it's AOC, it's Ossoff, it's Ilhan Omar. The new Democrat Party appears to be coming kind of out of nowhere as these Spice Girl,
sort of the Spice Girl type productions.
Yes, like she was a bartender isn't she from like Rye, New York, or something?
Yeah, no, she grew up in a very upper middle income neighborhood.
Now she's suddenly Hugo Chavez or Fidel Castro.
Right.
Woman of the people.
Well, as you know, traveling the world, most people like Chavez are just basically very wealthy people a lot of times who like to play the poor boy game, right?
Right.
While we got some time here, Jack Smith, we've talked to you before about Jack Smith. What is going on with it? I know he's under investigation now as of August. What is going on with that?
Well, I was part of a team that developed and filed a whistleblower suit on Jack Smith, federal whistleblower suit. I was working over in Europe tracking down some whistleblowers who claimed that when Jack Smith was in the Hague, he was part of some criminal court in the Hague, International Criminal Court. He was shaking down, according to these whistleblowers, he had a henchman who would go to Eastern Europe and find guys who had fought in the Yugoslav Civil War and stuff and say, we know that in 1997 you killed 3 people in such and such a village. Jack Smith is going to bring charges against you. But if you'll put $1 million in a suitcase, I'll take it back and this will all go away. And he was shaking people down from $400,000 to $10 million or more. And we got 4 different people with direct personal knowledge of this to go on the record, give us affidavits and tapes and everything, and built a federal whistleblower suit around it. That was back in 2023, filed it in November 2023. And frankly, that's when the wheels came off Jack Smith's little parade, because suddenly it really disrupted his timing. And do you remember when Jack Smith suddenly applied to the Supreme Court to dramatically accelerate everything?
Right.
That was a week after we put in a whistleblower thing on him, because as that started nipping at his heels, it became something he had to deal with. And I'll tell you something very strange about that whistleblower suit. Do I have 60 seconds?
Yeah, you do.
We filed it with 5 different inspector generals of DOJ, FBI, CIA, State Department, and I think one sort of general DC office of the inspector general. We got a letter back from just the DOJ inspector general saying, we've looked at this. We're going to answer on behalf of everyone who looked at this. And it is whatever he did or didn't do was before Jack Smith came back as a DOJ employee. So it's not our business, which is a little like saying, hey, I know that who was the Medellin cartel guy? What was that famous cocaine guy?
Well, Pablo Escobar.
If you found out that the number 2 at the DOJ, at the DEA, was actually Pablo Escobar in disguise, and you told them, I said, well, whatever he did before we hired him, that's not Inspector General's business. It was ridiculous. But what was also ridiculous, that should have been an email. It came on paper, not an email. And then we dug into it, and we had another source in the DOJ. No one at the DOJ Inspector General's office had any idea about it. It had all been intercepted. That letter probably came out of either Biden's White House or the CIA. So that's a huge crime. Somebody is answering on behalf of the federal government with a letter on a fake signature. That's just another of the many crimes that could be solved in a day if we had a DOJ who wanted to actually solve any crimes.
Well, what's interesting about Jack Smith, I was just Googling it. So it's reported he's worth around $20 million, and I find internet net worth's probably always undercounted to a great degree, right? But you got to figure this is a man that's worked for the government since the mid-'90s. From 94 to 99, local prosecutor. 99 to 2008, assistant U.S. Attorney General, a U.S. Attorney in Eastern District of New York. In 2008 to 2010, International Criminal Court, which brings, to what he did there. He was also in 2010 to 15, under Obama, Chief of Public Integrity Section of the DOJ. In 2015 to 17, U.S. Attorney's Office, Middle District, Tennessee. Then he was in the private sector from 17 to 18. And then from 18 to 22, he was Kosovo Specialist Prosecutor.
Well,
so he's worked the government, $160,000 a year jobs, and he's worth $20 million minimum.
That's a $5 million net worth resume.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, he could have inherited something. I'm going to ask Google what his real name. What is Jack Smith's real name? I think he had another name.
Patrick, we're going to bring you back on a little bit for the podcast portion here. We're going to, as you're looking that up here, folks, we thank Patrick Byrne for being on with us. If you want to listen more to this conversation, go to our podcast, which will be out this weekend. You can find us at breakingbattlegrounds.vote or wherever you get your podcasts. On behalf of Sam Stone, Kiley Kipper, myself, and Patrick Byrne, who will be joining us for the podcast, have a great weekend. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Chuck.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With the yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Ho, what do you get when you mix cocoa, candy canes, and strong Wi-Fi signals? You get a podcast. That's right, Santa has a podcast. I'm telling stories from the North Pole, sharing elf updates, and answering your questions. And yes, spilling some holiday secrets. It's festive, it's fun, and fueled entirely by cookies. Tune in wherever you get your podcast. It's Santa has a podcast. Just press play.
Welcome to the podcast portion of Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Staying on the line with us, Patrick Byrne. He is the founder and former CEO of Overstock.com. You need to check out his docuseries, folks. The Enemy Within docuseries.com. You can go there. You can get it on Rumble. That's where I watched it last night. It is eye-opening. It's extraordinary. And I thought the most interesting thing about it was that there's so many tidbits in it that tie Chuck to the truths we keep learning, including, as we were talking at the end of the on-air portion of the program, about some of the truths tied around Jack Smith and that attempted prosecution of Trump and others. Patrick, you actually said something I'd never heard right when we went. Is Jack Smith had more than one name?
I heard, well, that may be an adopted name. He was born that name. I just checked it out. He was born that name. I'd like to know his sort of family history. He may have inherited some of that money. One doesn't know, or it could be accumulated it in an untoward fashion.
Correct.
This stuff is just crazy. As we're looking at this whole story, obviously a lot of it ties to Crossfire Hurricane. We're learning more and more that the things that people like you and others have said over the years since that came out have been 100% true. We're learning, for instance, there were a huge number of federal officers in the crowd on January 6th, which has been denied over and over. The thing that hasn't, the dam that hasn't. 275. Yeah.
And now they're saying, well, they were in for crowd control. Listen, the FBI doesn't do crowd control.
Yeah, that's not on the resume when you apply.
No.
Right?
No. But the one dam that hasn't broken yet that I want to touch on a little bit is the election stuff, because you've taken some heat over that. I'm now working in the Maricopa County Recorder's offices. We're trying to get it cleaned up there. I know where some of the holes in the system are. You point to some others. How big a problem and an ongoing problem is this? And do you think that dam's going to break and we're going to find out? Because I agree, if you look at 2020, the overnight swing was statistically impossible in every swing state, statistically impossible. I know from our process, our signature verification for mail-in ballots is a fig leaf that is a joke. There's almost no point.
And so, Patrick, Sam is the chief of staff at the Maricopa County Recorder.
As of January. So
yeah.
We weren't there for any of the pre. Well, yes and no, but okay.
Do you know my friend Shelby Bush?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, no, we're trying to clean that up. Justin Heap, the recorder, is a conservative Republican, MAGA Republican who was sent in there after the most recent recorder had a lot of issues, a lot of controversies. We're trying to clean it up, but you're battling a system that's not just one county. There are problems nationwide, and they're being baked in.
Well, it's at this point we have the whole story. We've had it's sort of just leaking into the press what's really gone on but what I did over the last 2.5 years was I went overseas and I got to the bottom of the election systems in Venezuela, and I had a couple of compadres in that, and we did a bunch of weird things you'll be hearing about. We're crazier than anything in that book practically. So we have the answers, we have the people, and it may not be unrelated to why there's a bunch of F-35s flying over the coast of Venezuela. The craziest stuff you heard in 2020 is all true. What really happened is, can I give you the 60-second synopsis?
Yes.
Yes.
So this dictator, Fidel Castro clone named Hugo Chavez, comes to power in Venezuela in 1999. It's the world's largest oil reserves, bigger than Saudi Arabia. He brings in a mafia. The government becomes a mafia. It's actually referred to as the mafia of the sons, because the generals each have a son on their shoulder. And they had a mission to steal two things. We're going to steal the world's biggest oil reserves, and they have done that. They've looted $4 trillion while their own people starve. They looted $4 trillion themselves, the mafia that is the government. But if you're going to do that, there's one other thing you need to steal. You need to steal elections so you don't get tossed out. They developed an election system which got commercialized as it spun off as a company called Smartmatic moved to the U.S., and then Smartmatic ended up as the core technology in all the, whether you buy Dominion, Hart, ES&S, or Smart, whichever one you buy, it's the same equipment from the same factory in Taiwan. And that equipment is, the software is owned by really some Venezuelan cartel figures, and the hardware that they're assembling there in Taiwan really comes out of they're just assembling in Taiwan. The motherboard, the most important part of the computer, comes out of a factory in Beijing, China. And so none of this equipment is trustworthy. And they have infiltrated that into the U.S. and the West, and they've been stealing elections for 20 years in 72 nations, bending the arc of Western history so that we would smash into a wall. There was 1 minute and 45 seconds. Tell me where you want to dig in.
Oh, I mean, we have plenty of time.
Go ahead, dig in.
Yeah.
Dig in.
Where do you want to hear more about? What?
Well, first off, what you've said their goal is this sort of dystopian hellscape where we're all kind of forced into cities. People are. Is that part of the? I was thinking about this last night, having watched your series. Is that why they're so eager to open the door to populations that, quite frankly, have proven they can be controlled with overwhelming violence?
They're to the best way to understand what they plan on doing is get the books that they started publishing as soon as they committed the coup of 2020. They thought they were never going to be held responsible. They were never going to have to answer to anybody again. And they started coming out with explanations. One was Klaus Schwab from WEF and his explanation of Agenda 2030. And what they have in mind is reducing the world's population 95%, and a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And all because social justice, or because climate change, or because climate warming, or because climate cooling, or because racism. But what it really is global communism. They believe it should be run from Europe, and that there will be a collapse of the WHO, the UN, the IMF, the Bank of Settlements. Everything gets collapsed into one supranational body. And that's why we saw through the last 4 years this crazy ideas of signing treaties or amending treaties that are already signed with the World Health Organization that would shift our sovereignty to them. That they could declare anything a pandemic and demand a country do anything, and there was no pushback. And that included, they could say something, oh, there's a pandemic of misinformation in the United States. These guys like Byrne.
Right.
Now you, U.S. government, you need to suppress that. And the government could say, Chick, we're just suppressing this because of our treaty obligations. It was this Philadelphia lawyer way to back in tyranny. And it's absurd that we got that close, that we dodged a bullet like that.
Patrick, as we wrap up here, we at the show are absolutely homers for the United States. We believe it is the greatest country in the world. Does not mean we're perfect. It does not mean we have not had some close calls.
There's never been a perfect country in history, nor will there be.
What do you see? Are you optimistic about America, and what do we need to do to make sure we keep that optimism?
I am optimistic. Our political system is sclerotic. It is filled with tyrants or pro-tyranny. Our population has forgotten, apparently, even the basics of our civics, of how things work. Shoot, our population, our judges, our congressmen. You listen to somebody, some senator the other day was grilling somebody in the Senate hearing and saying this idea that our rights don't come from government and they come from higher authority and are given, that's all crazy. That's all, and it went on and on. It's like even the basics of our civic system, the senator doesn't understand. So we have to really, this is our only wake-up call we're going to get. The next time we have to fix this so tyranny does not show up again for another 250 years.
Patrick Byrne, thank you, my friend, for coming on today. It's been so great.
Chuck, Sam, thank you very much. Great to be on.
Have a great weekend, a good week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye, guys.
Well, folks, that was great today.
Yeah,
I think
fantastic.
Our audience will love it. So we're going to get into Kiley's Corner here. Can you cue up the music for us, Jeremy?
Talking about crimes and the ones committed, murder and mayhem in a world of sin and Kiley's on a roll. Kiley's got a corner and she's gonna start spilling out all the true crime in the world we're living in. So come and take a spin and listen in.
Okay. I mean, that was a pretty fun episode, but this is fun too.
Well, you saw him. So I think we had him on the show before. It was just radio. I don't think you saw the video of him. He is, Patrick wakes up every day and he does believe deeply in his country. I remember the school choice stuff, just getting pounded on it. I remember when he attacked naked shorting, just being pounded on it. He's not afraid of the fight. He has been absolutely ostracized and attacked on the election stuff. I always know he does things for the right reason.
Right.
And I think that's a very important path in life.
Yep.
What do you got for us today?
Well, I want to play a game with you guys today.
Oh,
so I want you guys
fantastic.
to pretend like you're a judge. And I want to know if you would grant this person, this defendant, the ability to go to Hawaii. Okay,
go ahead.
I mean, my question is, would Chuck grant them the ability to go to the electric chair? But okay, let's go.
My list is getting longer.
Okay, so Christopher Scholtes, he's out of Arizona. He's in Tucson. And he's going to trial on October 25th for the death of his 2-year-old daughter who he left in the car on a 109-degree day.
Okay, yeah.
So prior to this...
By the way, what was his excuse for doing it?
I'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So prior to this day, he had 9 CPS calls on him. So they had responded to the house 9 different times for abuse, leaving bruises on the children, verbal abuse. One of them had diabetes and refused to get her medication and refill it. One of them was expressing she was suicidal, refused to get her help with that. So it was 9 different things of that. So then the day that his 2-year-old died, his one oldest daughter is 17, and so she was out of the house. 2 other daughters were with a neighbor, and they went to a trampoline park. So he just had his 2-year-old daughter. They drove to the store together, to the gas station. He leaves her in the car. He goes into the bathroom, chugs 3 beers, comes back out to the car, goes to the grocery store, buys stuff to make tacos, gets more beer, steals the beers. He doesn't pay for them. He goes to self-checkout, steals the beers. I'm assuming probably chugs those at some point in the drive home. Drives home, leaves her in the car buckled up, goes inside, puts the groceries away. The girls come home from the trampoline park.
Oh my gosh.
And he tells the cops that he got distracted playing video games, but really his computer shows he was watching porn for 3 hours.
Oh my gosh. This story makes me sick to my stomach.
And then after the daughter had died.
This, by the way, this is someone Chuck would send on a trip to the electric chair.
He's done.
And then his wife, after the daughter goes to the hospital, texts, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you? We've lost her. She was perfect." So this is a normal occurrence. The other daughters have said that they were left in the car and used the car as a babysitter because the car would stay on for 30 minutes and it would turn off after 30 minutes. But they knew to turn the car back on. Obviously, the 2-year-old did not know to turn the car back on, or was also buckled in, so didn't have the ability. But after all this, and the Pima County Attorney's Office said that they told the judge that they objected to him going to Hawaii, and the judge still grants him the ability to go to Hawaii with his family, with his wife and 2 kids that are surviving.
Why did the judge, what was his reasoning to allow him to go to Hawaii?
Well, it was a girl, but there wasn't one. But I could find.
You know what's horrible about that story? As your parent, you get busy, right? I have 4 children, and I remember once Parker, my youngest, I left him, and I walked 15 yards from the car and realized he wasn't with us and hustled back. Now, this was in Park City. It was like 70 degrees out, right? But I still remember how awful I felt about that I got 15 yards from the car, right? And since Parker edits the clips from the show, I'm sure I'm going to have a conversation with him now.
That he remembers.
That explains everything. First of all, how is he able to keep his children when he's been, is it 9 times?
9.
9 times they've been called on him.
I don't know.
Isn't there seems like on that there should be 3 strikes.
Yeah, when you're walking up to a house and you're at 5.
I mean, look, that is one, as you guys know, I love digging into public policy, particularly state and local. The DES stuff is the most complicated area of public policy that there is. I mean, the problem is the foster system and the group homes are horrific.
They're all bad, but 9 times we
look.
It seems like we should have a punch card, right? And look, and I get sometimes authorities are called that should not be called. I'm not just, but 3 times. This is a trend. 9 times. It's a habit.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this out. I've never actually put this on paper as a policy, but one of the things that I thought that we missed is if you go back, think you're a baseball guy, so you'll know this story. The story of Babe Ruth's upbringing in the orphanage, right?
Right.
Where it was essentially a school and boarding house for the children, and they were, they weren't going to be moved from group home to group home. They were just there until they graduated from high school. They went through all the education there. That system needs to come back in some way, shape, or form for kids who are put in this type of position.
I agree.
We can't rely on the current system, which just doesn't work.
I agree.
No. And the wife is sticking with him.
Well, because is he abusing her?
Probably.
Though? I don't.
But
there's a reason she's sticking with him. It's either,
But also, she's an anesthesiologist, so I'm just going to put this out there. Should you be, I don't want my hand. She's an anesthesiologist at the Banner University Medical Center in Tucson.
So what does he do for work?
I don't know if he has a job.
Oh my gosh!
Because the neighbors would report that she was always at work, and she came home that day and she had just got home from work and was like, "Where's the daughter?"
This is Looney Tunes.
Yeah, she needs a psychological evaluation.
Because I wouldn't want her putting me under. Regardless of what,
not to be psychotherapist, but is he abusing her? Is she afraid
has
of
to be.
something? Well,
there's no way that you're.
Well, I don't know. Some people are just crazy, but I'm gonna go with abuse, right?
I'm gonna, for the sake of that, yeah. But okay, my next one.
Thank you for that pep gupper. All right, what's the next one?
Well, because both these cases are going to trial this month, so it got brought back up. Yeah, we'll follow back up.
Okay.
But the next one was the Abby Zorner case, and I talked about this. I think this was 2 years ago. I think it was in 2023. It was the 6-year-old boy who shot her in the classroom.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that's going to trial this week, but he's not the one that's being charged.
The parents, I'm sure.
No, not even the parents. So they couldn't charge anyone in this case. So Abby ended up suing the school district and suing the vice principal because the day that basically what happened was a 9-year-old boy went to school and had taken a handgun from his mom's purse and then shot his teacher, the first grade teacher, with the handgun. And 4 times throughout that entire day. So she went to the vice principal, said he has a handgun, and they were like, nah, he's too young. He doesn't have one. Second teacher said, I'm going to check his backpack. I think he has a handgun. She checks it and was like, but I'm pretty sure he put it in his pocket and went to recess. And they were like, no, we don't believe that. That's the case. A student came forward and was like, he showed me the gun at recess and said if I told anyone, he was going to shoot me. They still didn't check his backpack.
Oh, my.
And then in the afternoon, Abby, again, was like, I'm pretty sure he has a gun, still didn't check the backpack, and he shot her.
So she should sue them.
But the school district tried to stop the case in arguing that because she was getting workers' comp, there was no case available. But luckily, the judge was like, no. He's being charged.
By the way, workers' comp does not pay much.
For being shot in the chest by your first grade student?
No. This is...
So, but the crazy part is he had so much behavioral issues. His parents were supposed to be at school with him, so he could only attend school if his parents went. The first week that his parents graduated from going to school with him, that Monday he grabs this teacher's phone, slams it on the ground, it shatters, school resource officers come, he's suspended for the day. That next day comes, his mom's back at school with him, she leaves school, and that's when he shoots her. And then the mom says, we are careful gun owners, and the gun was secured. Well, the gun's not secure if a 6-year-old, so the parents should be charged.
This is a difficult thing for people who are concealed carry with children because you have to be, it's going to take work. Right? You have to secure the weapon when it's not directly under your control.
There's a responsibility coming with having a firearm.
Yeah.
And I wish people took that really seriously. Whenever I shoot, and I don't shoot often like you do, but I'm always very concerned about my surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God forbid I hurt someone, right?
Right.
And it just scares me. The thing that makes me sad about your case, besides school districts are worthless, I have a friend who has a sister or a close friend that they are a nurse for a psychologist that deal with behavioral issues with children 10 or younger. And she has told me some cases that they just know these kids are going to hurt someone in their life.
Yeah.
and they don't report them because there's this confidentiality, there's therapy and so forth. But there was one case she was telling me, and I forget the specifics, but I was so frightened for people who knew this kid. Like, I think even the parents, she said, were frightened of this kid.
Yeah.
And we have to start having serious conversations about that. The asylums that Reagan got rid of, we need to start looking at that again. I know, and without it being abused. There's people that will abuse this.
Yeah, but
something
here's
needs
the
to
thing.
be done.
I mean, you can't look to Europe anymore for examples of how to deal with society.
No,
right?
No.
But you certainly can look at Japan.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They do a very good job of maintaining a functioning society. And one thing they have is involuntary inpatient asylums for people with mental disorders. And then they have, look, we know how to keep people in inpatient treatment in humane ways.
Right.
And you know how they then will give them some freedoms and permissions and things as they're on their meds, but they're going to stay there. They're going to have someone observe them taking their meds every day. They're going to,
it's for their benefit.
It is for their benefit, and I'm sorry, I'm sick, I'm done, Chuck, Kiley. This has been getting to me. I am done with this attitude of the left that says that a handful of miscreants, whether they are drug users, whether they're mentally ill, whether, whatever it is, get to destroy the quality of life of this world for the rest of us. I'm over it.
Yeah, no, I'm done too. I'm done too. I have no mercy on this matter, and the most merciful thing is put them up somewhere where they can get the help they need and stop playing this game.
Which is a better environment for them and a better environment for us.
100%.
And I'm out of this game.
Yeah, no, I am too.
Yeah, because I want to know, this kid's 6, right?
Right.
He wasn't held responsible. His parents weren't held responsible. So what? Now he's 8, probably, because it's 25.
He's going to do a school shooting.
What's he going to do? Yeah.
10 years from now, we're going to hear
no one knows who it is because he's Jane Doe.
Well,
he can't be.
Well, that's the problem. That's my friend with
Yeah.
the nurse, the psychologist. This is the problem.
So what if, I hire him one day? I don't know, and probably won't, but maybe.
That's the issue.
That's a scary issue.
We don't know, yeah.
Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show today. We appreciate Patrick Byrne being on. Like I said, when you say he is an e-commerce pioneer, he really is a school choice pioneer. I don't say that with any amount of exaggeration. He was, and it's interesting always to catch up with Patrick and see what he's up to. And Kiley's Corner was very good today. Some interesting stuff going on. It's sad that your segment is interesting because that means there's a lot of weird people.
Well, I typed in teacher shot by student, just real quickly, just because I wanted to refresh on the facts, and there's
too many.
There's more than one. I'm like, oh.
So,
one 4 days ago too.
Oh my gosh! Oh. So, folks, on behalf of Sam, Kiley, Jeremy, and myself, we hope you have a great weekend. Visit us at breakingbattlegrounds.vote. Sign up for our Substack. We always have great opinion pieces coming out, and always listen to our podcast. Share it. Give us a 5-star review. Have a great weekend.
My name is Patrick Byrne, domestic extremist threat number 1, or not. Perhaps I'm just somebody who's willing to say the emperor has no clothes. You can decide for yourself.
Patrick Byrne.
They're following everything that you've been working on.
Yes, sir. Understood.
You may know of me as the CEO of this $2 billion e-commerce company, but really, I have this other life.
You have an unusual relationship with the United States government?
Sir, why are you bringing this up?
The FBI needed me to set up a bribe.
We can't have agents running around creating crimes.
It would violate too many rules for us to do it, but if you're willing to go do it, we'll look the other way.
Hello, my name is Maria Putina.
Then I would make it happen. Instead of being happy, they say,
just let it play. All right?
What?
Let it play?
Now, I know this may look like the Deep Throat scene from All the President's Men, but where do you think that stuff comes from? These things happen.
What you think you know.
I was encouraged to have a relationship.
What you think you are.
And as it heated up,
I'm going to meet the Trumps.
I was starting to realize the feds were using Maria to smudge up the Republican Party. And they were using me to use Maria. And this truth is going to be so explosive.
Erase every moment from your memory.
If you do this long enough, you begin to feel like an enemy of your own country. And arrest this Russian grad student so they could say, no, there is an actual Russian at the center of our Russian collusion drama. A civilization all begins with the rule of law. And once that gets corrupted, it's like my worst fears have just been realized. I don't know, maybe I'm just being sensitive.